Back to order. Messages from the House.
From the House of Representatives, Mr. President, the following messages are dated February 12, 2025. The following bills passed the House. House Bill number 111, Hit and Run, Responsibility and Penalties, ayes 60, excuse 2. That's message number 267. Message number 268, House Bill number 125, Repeal Unauthorized Use of Vehicle Crime, ayes 60, excuse 2. Message number 271, House Bill number 171, Sexual Exploitation of Children Amendments, ayes 59, noes 1, excuse 2. Message number 273, House Bill number 222, Medical Ethics Defense Act 2, ayes 51, noes 9, excuse 2. Message number 276, House Bill number 280, Sex Offender Registration, ayes 57, noes 3, excuse 2. Message number 277, House Bill number 289, Certificate of Need Repeal 3, ayes 58, noes 2, excuse 2. Message number 281, House Bill number 136, Volunteer First Responder Health Insurance Revisions, ayes 60, excuse 2. Message number 282, House Bill number 165, Ranked Choice Voting Prohibition, ayes 47, noes 13, excuse 2. Mr. President, the following bills passed the House on third reading in an amended form. House Bill number 117, this is message number 280. House Bill number 117, Omnibus Water Bill Construction, ayes 58, noes 2, excuse 2. Message number 279, House Bill number 90, Anthrax Outbreak Protocol, ayes 43, noes 17, excuse 2. Message number 269, House Bill 134, Taxpayer Funds, Sexually Explicit Events Prohibited 2, ayes 53, noes 7, excuse 2. Message number 270, House Bill number 144, County Canvassing Board, ayes 59, noes 1, excuse 2. Message number 272, House Bill number 218, Public Utilities Stays During Resolution of Lawsuits, ayes 58, noes 2, excuse 2. Message number 274, House Bill number 224, Prohibiting Foreign Adversary Property Ownership, ayes 54, noes 6, excuse 2. Message number 275, House Bill number 246, Wyoming Wednesday, ayes 46, noes 14, excuse 2. Message number 278, House Bill number 307, Poll Watchers Polling Station Observation, ayes 54, noes 6, excuse 2. Sincerely, Katie Talbot, House Chief Clerk.
Thank you, Randy. Reports from standing committees.
Mr. President, the following reports are dated February 12, 2025. Committee number 4, Education, to whom is referred House Bill 199, engrossed Wyoming Freedom Scholarship Act, respectfully reports same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass amended. Ayes Senators Brennan, Olson, and Scott. No, Senators Rothfuss and Schuler. Senator Schuler, Chairman. Committee number 9, Minerals, Business, and Economic Development, to whom is referred House Bill 14, Solid Waste Municipal Cease and Transfer Funding, respectfully reports same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes Senators Anderson, Cooper, Jones, and Rothfuss. Excuse Senator Nethercott. Senator Anderson, Chairman. Committee number 9, Minerals, Business, and Economic Development, to whom is referred House Bill 22, Water and Wastewater Operator Emergency Response, respectfully reports same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes Senators Anderson, Cooper, Jones, and Rothfuss. Excuse Senator Nethercott. Senator Anderson, Chairman. Committee number 9, Minerals, Business, and Economic Development, to whom is referred House Bill 41, engrossed Environmental Quality Irrevocable Letters of Credit, respectfully reports same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes Senators Anderson, Cooper, Jones, and Rothfuss. Excused Senator Nethercott. Senator Anderson, Chairman. Committee number 10, Labor, Health, and Social Services, to whom is referred House Bill 82, Provider Enrollment Standards, respectfully reports same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes Senators Barlow, Crum, Scott, and Steinmetz. Excuse Senator Hutchings. Senator Barlow, Chairman.
Thank you, Randy. Senator Schuler, do you have a re-referral for me?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I do. I would request that we re-refer House Bill 199 to appropriations. It's got an appropriation. Thank you.
Can you give us the catch title, please?
Yes, I sure could. Wyoming Freedom Scholarship Act.
Okay. Absent objection, House Bill 199 is re-referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. All right. Madam Majority Floor Leader, we are at that order of business. Consideration of bills on general file.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate resolve itself into committee of the whole.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Senator Jones, come on down.
Okay, am I supposed to? Yes. The Committee of the Whole will please come to order. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 23. The reading clerk will read in the House bill.
House Bill number 23, Surrender Driver's License Repeal, sponsored by the Transportation Committee, an act relating to motor vehicles, was referred to Committee number 8, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass amended. Ayes, Senators Anderson, Brennan, Cooper, and Cole. Excuse, Senator Pappas. Senator Cooper, acting chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure? Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move when the Committee of the Whole rises to report to do so with the favorable recommendation of House Bill 23. And to present this good bill, I would call on Senator Brennan.
Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman. So House Bill 23, Surrender of Driver's License Repeal. This came through the Transportation Committee, this joint interim. The department is updating some of their mainframe system that dates back to 1986. And so currently in statute, we have a whole bunch of things that basically what this does is it doesn't require somebody having to give over their physical driver's license anymore when their driver's license is suspended. There are a lot of places where people need that ID to get prescription medications and other types of things. And with the update of the system, they can go in and see if that driver's license is good or not. Objection, I'll let Senator Cole take the standing committee amendment.
Senator Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I didn't know I was going to take that Senate Committee amendment, so I am not prepared at the moment. If you give me a second, I could.
Moving back
It's a
to
very
Senator
simple-
Brennan.
It's a very simple little amendment that Senator Cole brought to us.
Senator Brennan,
Oh,
would you like to move that amendment?
I would. Could I have Standing Committee Amendment 1? I move Standing Committee Amendment 1 to House Bill 23 and ask for your favorable consideration. Ms. Chairwoman, this is definitely a policy decision that I think we should highly consider. As the body, if you go to page 9, line 5 of the bill, this strikes his and puts in the. So I would stand for any questions on this amendment.
Question.
Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Senator Brennan's motion to adopt the standing committee amendment number 1 to House Bill 23, please say aye. Opposed, no. Okay, that has been adopted. Senator Brennan.
With that, Ms. Chairwoman, that is the bill, and we can either discuss the bill, or it looks like we have a committee of the whole amendment, and either is fine with
Can we
me.
have that amendment read in, please?
House Bill 23, Committee of the Whole, Amendment Number 1 to engrossed copy, page 1, line 3, delete.
Senator Cooper? Oh,
It's Senator Hicks's.
Senator Hicks.
So, Madam Chairman, I move Committee of the Whole Amendment number 1 to House Bill 23 when asked for your favorable consideration. This is just mostly a technical correction. It changes officers to officer. It's just a spelling omission. And after department insert of transportation, these are technical corrections. Ask for your favorable consideration.
All those in favor of Senator Hicks' motion to adopt Committee of the Whole Amendment number 1 to House Bill 23, please say aye. Opposed, no. Okay, back on the bill. All those in favor of Senator Cooper's, oh, I'm sorry. Senator Hutchings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really didn't receive sufficient information on this bill. This is a 10-page bill, and all I got was they're updating their system, and they don't want to take your driver's license away, but there's a lot going on in here, and I'd like to know more. Thank you.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There's really not that much going on. It was proposed to us by the Highway Patrol and pretty much their bill. When their license is revoked or rescinded, they still need ID. They gotta have the ID to do anything. So they get to keep the card. The law enforcement can tell if the license has been rescinded by the computer system. Everything's done by the computer anymore anyway. So it's as simple as that. They just hold on to their card and then they have their picture ID. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Oh, Senator Rothfuss.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. What's going on page 6? I was trying to read through it, but we don't have enough time, so I'll just ask, what's going on page 6? That seems like new language.
Senator Brennan. Senator Nethercott.
Madam Chairman, I'll take a stab at it, help out the committee. I think what this is involving is a person's driver's license when they are arrested for a DUI and what happens to that driver's license upon arrest. So typically, when someone is arrested for a DUI, their driver's license is taken and they are issued what's called a temporary driver's license in paper because your driver's license is a privilege, not a right. And then there's an option for that person who is charged with a DUI to obtain a probationary license and go through that process. This adds in a requirement to be added to the citation and the notice on page 6 as to the probable cause associated with the DUI. So the officer must have probable cause, as identified on page 6, lines 9 through 10, that it occurred on a public street or highway in this state, which is not a parking lot, but actually on a public motorway, is in violation of the DUI statute, which is that 31.5.233. I'm not sure of the 234B, but we can pull out our statute books. The test was taken of the person, and so I'm assuming that that's the roadside test or some other breathalyzer test. And then the person had an alcohol concentration of 0.02. So also assuming then, as a result of that Romanet 3, that that's a breathalyzer test on the side of the road, and that therefore establishes that probable cause for the DUI. It doesn't mean that there's a conviction there, but that has to be provided on that notice as it relates to the actions associated with the driver's license. Didn't hear the testimony on this bill, but just looking at the bill draft and how DUIs function.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. But, looking back to page 4 where this is located, 31.6.108, this is implied consent requirements for youthful drivers. And there's a lot of revision here. And again, even though I do realize it has to do with the 0.02% alcohol, which is probably relevant to youthful drivers, I still must say I don't know the context of what we're changing in this area, and just kind of want to understand a little more background. It seems like it's doing more than the presentation was the idea that it makes perfect sense, which it does, that you shouldn't have your driver's license taken away. It is your identification, and that the registration is taken away, and that even if the license is rescinded from driving purpose, you still have your identification. That's the high-level discussion. But integrating what the bill is actually doing is kind of what I share with the good senator from here in Laramie County. This provision about youthful drivers, for example, I'm struggling to read it in quickly enough and see what the intent of the bill is to change to know whether or not I'm supportive of it. So if we can get a little more understanding of, in particular this, because there's a lot of additional new language, implied consent requirements for youthful drivers, what is going on there that seems outside of the scope of the previous review of the legislation.
Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It is under the section for implied consent for minors. And so this is simply the requirement that the officer has to provide to the Department of Transportation concerning what probable cause the officer had to justify the removal of that youthful offender's license. And so that is the specific requirements that has to be provided. Typically, this information would be on a citation. And so it's curious that the department wants this specifically in statute, but not entirely surprising, because I think it's already there as required on a citation that would get issued. So it's not, I don't think it's anything new. I think it's just more specifics associated with the notice that's specifically spelled out that has to be provided to the department in response to a youthful offender getting pulled over for being under the influence.
Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I think, I don't, it looks pretty benign to me. It looks like it gets rid of, multiple layers of trying to get a temporary driver's license. So I can't see that it's a bad bill. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman. I want to thank you to my fellow senator from Laramie County in the back of the room for helping us out on that one. That was the department's testimony. So, like I said, they're updating their system from like 1986. In the system now, they can electronically suspend that license and see that. And so this just goes in and does that with under the implied consent requirement. And I do believe that they've just updated the language into how that works with their system and how things are done today.
Senator Cole.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. So in the bill title, it kind of goes into it, repealing temporary licenses, requiring peace officers to submit signed statements to the department after alcohol concentration tests for persons under 21 years of age. So it's an update by the department to kind of clean up and consolidate, but primarily to deal with the fact about keeping identification with licenses, and because it's all verified. When they call in to verify you have an active license. And that's what they're doing here with the department to kind of maybe help out a little more color to it. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Senator Cooper's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 23, say aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 23 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 45. If the reading clerk will read it in.
House Bill 45, removing otters as protected animals, sponsored by Representative Byron, an act relating to game and fish, was referred to Committee Number 6, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass amended. Ayes, Senators Boner, Hicks, Jones, Landon, and Schuler. Senator Landon, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure? Senator Landon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with a due pass recommendation on House Bill 45. For an explanation of the bill, we'll stay right here. There is a standing committee amendment, and I'd ask that that be read in at this time.
House Bill 45, Standing Committee Amendment Number 1, page 1 above line 1, in.
So, Madam Chairman, this little bill comes to us from the other side, relatively clean until our committee got to visiting the other day, and I have to admit, fellow senators, we got out over the tips of our skis a little bit. We made some changes that I have to say probably run us afoul of something that we hold quite dear here in this Senate chamber, and that is that pursuant to the Wyoming Constitution, no law shall be passed, no bill shall be so altered or amended to become a different bill. And so in our overzealousness to have the otters removed from this particular list in our state statutes, we decided to get rid of the statute altogether. The problem is that pulled the fishers and the pikas underneath the bill as well as unprotected species of animals, and that's not in the title. So, Madam Chairman, I say that about the Standing Committee amendment because I'm going to encourage the body to please vote no on the Standing Committee amendment. If any of my fellow committee members want to say anything about the amendment, they're sure welcome to do that. I hope that helps you understand what happened. Where we struck the language was down there in section 1 on the bill, page 1. You'll see where that particular section includes the animals that we're talking about, and under Wyoming law, they're protected. If we remove that statute, it pulls in a couple of animals that we don't want to pull in. So I would ask that you vote against the Standing Committee amendment. Be glad to answer any questions.
Did he move it? I'm sorry, Senator Landon, could you please move that amendment?
My apologies, Madam Chairman. I would move the Standing Committee Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 45. I thought I did that. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a question on the page 1, line 1 on the catch title. You did amend that in the amendment. So the question I'll have is that not good enough to make the amendment in the catch title in the amendment, or is it still not going to pass statutory muster? Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Senator Landon.
Madam Chairman, I go back to what I just indicated, which is that no bill shall be so altered or amended on its passage through either house as to change its original purpose. So the original purpose of this little bill was to concentrate on our otters and to remove them from that protection status, which puts them in the non-game category. The other two animals that would be pulled in, there's more animals in that section, by the way, but they are protected by the Endangered Species Act, which is federal legislation. But the two animals that are not are the two that I indicated. And so regardless of whether you change the title or not, we changed the bill with that standing committee amendment. So I'm just suggesting that we would be better served to bring that bill back to its original form, and we do that by voting no on the standing committee amendment. I hope that helps.
All those in favor of Senator Landon's motion to adopt the standing committee amendment number 1 to House Bill 45, please say aye. Oppose, no. The motion to adopt the standing committee amendment number 1 to House Bill 45 has failed. We are back on the bill. Senator Landon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate it, fellow senators. And so we are back on the bill. And just a couple more things about this little bill. It was generated by one of our friends down the hall who lives over in the western part of the state, where we have quite a few of these otters. I'm sorry that the bill came up a little more quickly than I thought it was going to, but you should have a little map that will come out here in a little while, and that will show you just where all of these otters are. And we have recovered pretty well with this species. First and foremost, I want everybody to understand that this bill is not intended to put these animals in jeopardy in any way. What this bill does is allow for our Game and Fish Department to better manage these animals. The bringer of the bill on the other side ran into a situation where we had a little problem, Otter, on one of these pieces of private land. And on behalf of his constituent, he reached out to the Game and Fish and said, I'd like to be able to remove this otter and get him transferred somewhere else. And the Game and Fish warden indicated to him that he was not allowed to do that. Well, this would clear that situation up. As I said, it would put him in a category of non-game status, but bear in mind that the only way that this would jeopardize otters is if you went through 2 more regulatory processes. If you went through the regulatory process to allow them to be trapped, which is not the intent and is not in the bill, or if you allowed them to be hunted. Those are 2 separate things that would have to go through commission approval. So at any rate, Madam Chairman, all we're doing is putting these otters in a situation where our Game and Fish Department can better manage them and perhaps relocate an otter or 2 if that situation ever arises and there is a need. So it's a good little bill. I hope you support it. I'd be glad to answer any other questions. Thank you.
Senator Anderson.
Madam Chairman, on and for this bill, I think we ought to pass it. You didn't know.
I did too. I thought I'd say it myself.
Senator Boner.
Madam Chairwoman, I have to say I agree with the previous speaker. I think we ought to hear the committee of the whole amendment right now.
House Bill 45, Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1, page 2, line 2, delete.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I move that Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 to this House bill. Ladies and gentlemen, it's pretty simple. It'll make it effective immediately so we can get going right away, managing the species, which is clearly no longer in need of protection. So coordinate this with the department. They see no issue. And yeah, just ask for your support of the amendment.
Any questions?
All those in favor of Senator Boner's motion to adopt the Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 45, please say aye. Opposed, no. Back on the bill. Oh, I'm sorry. The motion to adopt standing, or Senator Scott. I need to read. The motion to adopt Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 45 has passed. We are back on the bill. Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, I want to ask a question. These otters, they're a large weasel. They primarily eat fish. They are enjoyable to watch because they really are quite playful. I've seen them, but both times in our national parks in Wyoming. My question is, what were the otters doing that was causing a landowner to want to remove them? What kind of problems were they really causing? I have reservations about this bill, Madam Chair.
Senator Schuler. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to answer the good senator's question, it started out, I think, some issues with stock ponds, with ranchers who've stocked their ponds with fish, and these little otters are getting in there, and nobody could do anything about it because right now they are protected. So about the only thing the Game and Fish could do was maybe put up electric fences because they can't remove them, they can't take them anywhere else except where they are. But if you look at the map, I mean, we're starting to get quite a lot of them on the western side of the state. I've never seen one, but apparently we heard in testimony that they're in my neck of the woods as well. They do like fish, so fishermen don't really care for them, but I think whenever you see a family or two of them that are in an area that's highly fished, I think that sometimes can create a problem. So what this will do, again, is just let the Game and Fish be able to move some of them around, transplant them if they need to, and that sort of thing. So hope that answers your question.
Senator Boner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and building off that, the reason why you saw the Standing Committee amendment is we also asked what's the reason for the statute that currently exists. And there wasn't really a very good answer for that. It pre-exists the Endangered Species Act. And so, it's a very old statute, archaic, I would even argue, that it serves no meaningful purpose. And so it's an artifact of a time before we had to deal with our federal partners managing for at-risk species, and so that's why you saw the Standing Committee amendment. And that's the reason to support the bill, I believe.
Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I see that it's been in the statute since 1953. So that's an extended period of time, and I guess I'm a little hesitant about understanding how they got to be in our statutes, particularly in 1953, when we weren't that as concerned about protecting endangered species as perhaps we are today. And then there's no data on the actual numbers that I've even heard associated with the otter population. And I would appreciate if we stopped talking about relocating them. Nobody's going to relocate an otter. They will be killed and they'll be trapped for their pelts. And so let's just have an honest conversation, I think, about catching the otter and moving it to another safe fish pond. It's not going out to the farm, it's being killed. And so if we can have just a real honest conversation about what it is we're doing here, what those numbers are, and where has the Game and Fish been for the last 75 years, that they haven't brought this to the legislature's attention to say, hey, it's time to delist this otter from our statutes from 1953. So I appreciate that they're going into private stocked fish ponds for food. Sounds like an attractive nuisance to me. Why the otter has to die for it, I'm not entirely sure. A little more conversation on the bill.
Senator Hicks.
Madam Chairman, just for clarification, we have an archaic piece of legislation here that predates the Endangered Species Act. Once we remove otters from this list, under Game and Fish, believe it's chapter 52 or 62, they move from there down to a non-game species. So that's where they end up, with all of the other non-game species out there. They will not be listed under Chapter Game and Fish Rules and Regulations as a species eligible for trapping. And so that's not the intent of the bill. That's not going to happen. The department would go out there and have to go out for public comment, promulgate rules to move this species from the non-game species list that's managed under this chapter in Game and Fish Rules to move them over to another section that allows them to be trapped. So that's not the intent. That's not going to happen. If there's any trapping, it will be live trapping to be able to move them, but they're not going to be killed by the implementation of this bill. That would take an entirely different act by the Wyoming Game and Fish Department to move them off of the non-game species. So that's the honest truth as testified by the professional agencies. So we're not trapping otters anytime in the near future, folks. It's just to bring them into the conforming management as a non-game animal under existing chapter rules and regulations by the department.
Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate that this is the first step for Game and Fish to create the rules associated with killing the otters. And so what is that time frame? How quickly can we go kill them? Does anybody have that answer?
Senator Hicks.
So, that's kind of Madam Chairman, I'm sure my colleague can answer that. We have this thing called the Administrative Procedure Act when any agency has to go through rulemaking. So I think the answer to that question is I'm pretty positive the good majority floor leader knows what that takes. And so public comment goes out, has to follow the APA. So it could be months, but until somebody actually petitions the department to come and allow trapping, that's a much more protracted process. So there is nothing in the foreseeable future that this is actually going to happen, that somebody's going to petition the department to come in and change their rules to start trapping otters. It's highly unlikely, and quite frankly, the testimony from the department is they probably wouldn't grant that anyway. The population is slowly recovering around the state of Wyoming, and they intend to continue to manage them for that purpose, not as a recreational trapping species. So anyway, on and for the bill.
Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to point out that the Federal Endangered Species Act is unconstitutional and should be void in Wyoming anyway. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, I'm curious about the numbers. I obviously haven't studied this extensively, but I thought I would just do a quick dive and try and figure out, are there a lot of these now, and we don't have to worry about them. And I definitely was not, upon my modest investigation, troubled by there being too many otters. It looks like there's still very much a rare overall within the state. The population is low. My understanding is it's recovered modestly, but that there is not a robust population by any stretch anywhere in the state of Wyoming. So can we get a little more maybe background? What data are we relying upon to assume that we have this robust population? That's not what I was just gathering quickly, although I do see this map, and there's a lot of dots on it, which looks good, but I don't know what those dots mean. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just piling on here, I do see a dot here to the west of the capital city, and I have to ask, I'm not aware of a lot of waterways right there. That has to be somebody's pet, right? I mean, is that what we're counting here? So I appreciate the dots, but this isn't actually scientific data as collected by our department that would identify whether or not this species that has been listed in our statute since 1953 justifies its removal. Now, I'm not on or against the bill, but I just feel like this is, this feels a bit knee-jerk to me, and I think there needs to be a greater conversation about it, and I'm gonna get the answers. Also, in response, I do think that there's significant interest about trapping them. And so as an article recently, as February 4th, that's a conversation in a Wyoming publication concerning eating meat and being able to trap them in full support. So I anticipate the ability to do that, probably consistent with the APA within 6 months.
Senator Driscoll.
Chairman, Mrs. Chairman, on and for,
I think it's good. We're leaving authority back with the department again. It just cleans up statutes, get them back to where they ought to be. And, you know, back to the dots, there's none up in the Northeast. And I'd be pretty interested in having some up around my end of the country, particularly if we can train them to eat turkeys.
Senator Hicks.
Madam Chairman, for a couple of things. To my colleague from the Ivory Towers, in fact, we had one of the world-renowned researchers on this at the Wyoming Game and Fish Department has spent about $390,000 in her research testify before the committee. In fact, that we are seeing a slight increase in population around the state of Wyoming. And so that's based on science. That now, admittedly, they said they didn't want to delist these from protected, but it effectively doesn't change any management by the department. But that's where that number comes from, and that testimony that we are seeing increases within the state of Wyoming. To the dot, these things expand by crossing large areas they travel across from one waterway to another waterway. So if we had dots on here for things like wolverines, you know, a few years ago, there was a wolverine trapped right out here on Crow Creek a few years ago. So any animal periodically pioneers, and particularly young males. We've had elk go from all the way to the Canadian border, all the way to the St. Louis, Missouri. We had an elk here in Wyoming, left my colleague down there at Fossil Butte, ended up in Cody. Mountain lions from Montana and Idaho end up down in my neck of the woods. It's not uncharacteristic to have any of these species periodically pioneer out trying to exploit unexploited habitats. So that's what that dot is. This was a confirmation. It wouldn't be in the Game and Fish's database if it wasn't a recorded incidence of a wayward otter. Maybe otter should have been someplace else, but he wasn't there. So anyway, just an explanation on that.
Senator Landon.
So, Madam Chairman, we can certainly get more detailed information down, hopefully to the very number of how many of these little guys we've got out there. Be happy to do that if it goes through to second reading. Just a couple more things about some of the testimony that we received. That actually is documented by all of us, a sighting of an otter. So it's as scientific as the professor over at the university can make it. But obviously, we don't know the exact numbers. We've got a pretty good idea, and they are recovering. Dating back to this 1953 statute, it really doesn't have a whole lot of impact other than it does kind of handcuff our ability to manage this species a little bit better. At no point anywhere did we ever have testimony even close to an interest to either trap or hunt these animals. That's really not the purpose. The purpose is to be able to just manage the species a little bit better. But I will do my best to get whatever information I can for second reading. Thank you.
Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, a quick question. If the proponents know this map that was passed out and these dots, what time period did that cover? Is that a 1-year period, a 5-year period? Do we have any knowledge of what time period that represents?
Senator Landon.
Madam Chairman, that map was actually passed out by the professor from over the hill. And each year she takes a pretty good snapshot. I almost said the wrong thing there, that formal thing. A snapshot of how many of these animals exist, but I'll tie that down as well. We'll get some numbers. So, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Senator Larson.
I'm so confused.
So they're a nothing species now, I guess. So does that mean you can just go shoot them? Or, I mean, they're not a predator, they're not a fur bearer? I mean, what are they? So if I don't like them, I just go shoot them? Don't know.
Senator Landon.
Okay, so to the last question, what this would do is move them out of statutory protected status. That 1953 law that we keep referencing, that says protected animals in Wyoming. And it includes, I think, 6 or 8 of them. I don't have it here in front of me. And otters are one of them. And if this bill were to pass, the otters would then become a non-game species. Non-game means no, they cannot be trapped legally. They cannot be hunted legally. They're just a non-game species. And there's, of course, many, many species across Wyoming that are considered non-game. So, hope that helps.
Senator Netherkoff.
Just to make sure it's clear for the public and everyone understanding. So because the statute says that they are protected, Game and Fish is prohibited from making rules associated with killing the otters. Nobody's relocating the otters. Once we repeal this statute, I suspect that Game and Fish, either at the request of the public or on their own initiative, will immediately create rules associated with the hunting and trapping of otters. That likely will occur in about 6 months' time, give or take, associated with the rulemaking process in the Wyoming Administrative Procedures Act. And at that point in time, you can do what you want with them.
Senator Landon.
Madam Chairman, thank you. And as our good majority floor leader likes to do, I can't do it as well as she does, but calm down, everybody. I'm pretty sure that our Game and Fish Department is not going to go down that highway. And they testified as such. I don't think that this population is as robust as we're going to start hunting and trapping them. That's not the idea. The idea goes to all the things we talked about today, including maybe the opportunity to move populations where they're getting too densely populated up near the parks, for example, and bring them to other spots. We spotted one in Fremont Canyon not long ago, riding on a boat one day, and it was awesome. And I brought up in committee, it would be kind of nice to have a little more population of them around in the center part of the state. So possibilities. I doubt that there's going to be much going on because it's still a recovering group of animals. But again, I'll chase down whatever information I can that might be helpful on second reading. So, thank you.
Senator Boner.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And just to be clear, that was, we had her testimony throughout the committee hearing that there's no plans for our department to open up, hunting or trapping of the general public of these otters. So I want to be very clear about that. If there's some evidence to the contrary, let's hear it. But I'm concerned that we're impugning the integrity of our Game and Fish Department here on this floor. If there's that big of a concern, if we want to have a little mini Endangered Species Act in statute, then maybe that's a prime opportunity for a second reading amendment where we can come and say, you can't, let's prohibit the killing of these otters to alleviate the concerns that we hear in a vocal part of the public. So I do believe that I trust our Game and Fish Department. If other members don't quite trust them, then let's bring a second reading amendment to further set some sideboards within this legislation.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to confirm one thing, and I appreciate that the good sponsor is going to get some more data for second reading for us to consider getting to the numbers. But I am getting the sense now from all of the testimony since I asked that question that none of the scientists that were in the room providing testimony thought there were enough otters to take them off the list. And so I guess I'll just ask that. None of the scientists, none of the people that actually collect this data and study this would suggest that it's appropriate to cross them off the list. So can we hear a little bit about that? Were there any experts advocating that the population has recovered sufficiently that it would be appropriate to take them off that list?
Excuse me. Senator Landon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The answer is no. There were none in the room that indicated that they wanted to remove the protected status that is provided under our statute. There was one expert, And we've referenced that good professor several times today. She was very impressive. And by the way, I wanted to correct something that I'm receiving from the public out there, that this map is not done yearly. It's a collective map. I would assume that they have to go out periodically, and I'll find out how often that is done. But no, none of the experts felt like they should be taken off of this statutory list.
Senator McEwen.
Since we're delving into this to the nth degree of detail, I'm looking at my map, and I would like to know if the Otter that's east of Cheyenne is a resident of Nebraska or Colorado.
Senator Hicks.
Madam Chairman, I was hoping my colleague from Laramie County could help me out with based on the prognostications of future trapping as to where she got the scientific basis from that. Was it from the Farmer's Almanac or Nostradamus or someplace? I'm just curious as to where that research and information came from that predicted the future fate of otters in the state of Wyoming. It would be helpful to understand that.
Senator Pearson.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Well, you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that we should pass this bill so Wildlife Services or the Game and Fish can come and remove these problematic animals to certain landowners. And I've seen it done before. At our place, they've removed animals for us, live trapped them and relocated them to other places. So I know that does happen. But if we don't do this, landowners are going to take it upon themselves and do what they want to do with these animals if they have no one to call that will come and remove them. Enough said. Thank you.
Senator Driscoll.
Madam Chairman, thank you. I'm going to read right off the department's webpage for all the hysterias out there that we're going to start hunting and trapping them and going crazy. So we're moving them into a non-game mammal category. And the heading on their page says, over 80 mammal species in Wyoming are classified as non-game, including the iconic black-footed ferret. Statewide non-game section manages non-game mammal species with assistance from regional personnel. Species special management interest in the state includes black-footed ferret, wolverine, and several bat species. Most non-game mammals are rarely seen because of their small size, nocturnal behavior, or rarity. You know, that tells you they recognize what they are, and they're not going to go out and try to eliminate them. They have the ability easily to end back up on the endangered species list. This gives them the flexibility where they're having problems with to go be able to specify and do rules to deal with it. It does not state that they're going to open them up to widespread slaughter. Our Game and Fish Department is unbelievably protective. Anybody that's been around them with mountain lions and other species will tell you they take really good care of our non-game species. There's a lot of hysteria going on. Folks, there's no block helicopters up here, and we're not going to kill all the otters or the wolverines if you let Game and Fish manage them. But wolverines are the same. There's a whole lot of people that have seen them. It gives them a tool to manage them. Let's not get crazy about what it does and doesn't do.
Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I don't think anybody's getting crazy, and I don't think anybody is really all that concerned. I have full faith and trust in our Game and Fish Department and know that they do, that their priority is conservation and the health of all of the species within our state. Kind of having good fun with this story and with this bill, recognizing that the data associated with it is lacking. That is true, and it is only because of the faith in the department in managing our species and knowing how they prioritize their health that this bill would even come close to passing, as it likely will, and I support because of that trust. However, I do question why they haven't brought this issue before in 70 years. and how it has been in statute that long. I don't think that this is actually a record of where those otters are located, but rather where feces were recovered based on the testimony there. I do think that the testimony indicated that the otters are not in a healthy position to where Game and Fish likely would not consider allowing them to be hunted because they're not as robust populations as we think. So the motivation behind the bill is from an avid fisherman who feels some competition with the otters in his neck of the woods. And I think if we kind of have some good fun about that and allow our wonderful department to manage the species, I have no doubt that they will do it well. Relocating otters is not likely. They live in family groups. It doesn't really work for them. So I do think if we need to talk about population control and their interactions with humans, we are talking about probably their demise as managed by the Game and Fish. And so I'm on and for the bill, but we have time to have fun with some of these House bills to start, and I appreciate the discussion and support our Game and Fish.
Senator Landon.
So, Madam Chairman, maybe I can take it home, and I agree with our floor leader. This is just a House bill. But you know, we talked about testimony, and I forgot to mention, we did really enjoy interacting with the professor from the university who has literally spent the last 30 years studying this particular animal. But we had testimony from several other folks. One from a coalition that represents the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, and they actually spoke in support of this. We also had you know, a group of Wyoming, those interested in Wyoming wildlife, you know, a nonprofit organization that I think it has quite a bit of notoriety. They spoke in favor of this. So it certainly is a result, I think, the fact that it comes to us this year and didn't come to us 10 years ago or whatever. A lot of that is the population impact. My desk mate can talk to you about that part of the world. We have a lot more people there now. We have a lot more people floating the river. We will be considering how many people we allow to float the river. We've got so many floating the river. So we do have population impacts that are going to impact not just this little species of animal, but every one of our species of animals. And so we'll visit as we go along and bring you issues like that. But in this case, I think that our otters will be fine, and I would ask you to support the bill.
Question. All those in favor of Senator Landon's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 45, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no? No. House Bill 45 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 25.
House Bill 25, Vehicle Accident Reporting Amendments, sponsored by the Transportation Committee, an act relating to motor vehicles, was referred to Committee Number 8, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Senators Anderson, Brennan, Cooper, and Kolb. Excused, Senator Pappas. Senator Cooper, acting chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure?
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 25. And to present this bill is the good Senator Cole.
Senator Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As stated, House Bill 25 was an interim committee bill for the Joint Transportation. It basically is removing the $1,000 requirement for accident reporting, first by Highway Patrol. The issue came down to darn near every single thing that happens to a vehicle nowadays exceeds $1,000. So it was thought to be unnecessary. It ties up the troopers' time because they pretty well have to report everything. So in this day and age, it was considered not a necessity. And that's the real core reason for the bill. There's another change that happens on page 3, lines 3 to 6. And it requires a report by a municipality, and I'll talk about this a little further, within 10 days. And that was not there before. Within that same scope, it also took away the $1,000 requirement for the same reasons. I will also like to point out that there is a mistake that I have found, and on page 3, line 1, and it was the word police. That word should be changed to peace officer. I think there'll certainly be a second reading amendment on that, and the effective date's July 1 of 25, and I'll stand for any questions, Madam Chairman.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I guess I'm curious about the testimony on this. The idea that every single accident would be requiring a report right now because everything requires damage, you know, that doesn't necessarily align with even my practical experience. You know, I've had a short time ago, somebody backed into my vehicle, F-150 with a stainless steel bumper, yeah, right? Did trivial damage. I certainly didn't care. So looked at it and said, yeah, no worries. And that was the appropriate end of that engagement. No police report was filed, no concern was had. And I don't understand why the state of Wyoming is better off if we had called the police on that, brought in a local police person to file a report so that the two parties involved could then wander off at the end of the engagement. This honestly doesn't make any sense to me. And if anything, if the 1,000 isn't enough because now $1,000 worth of damage is pretty easy to get to, maybe the right answer is to increase that number so that reasonable people can come to their own agreement if they choose to, based on the circumstances, without having to file a police report on everything. It might be a situation also, Madam Chairman, where you simply have two parties that want to work the problem out and come to an agreement, for better or worse, and work through their insurance companies and recognize that they could do that without the engagement of police. So why do we need to bring law enforcement into everything when a lot of things can be handled just by parties engaging in an amicable way?
Sir, let's go with Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, I suggest we read the bill. If you look at page 2, lines 17 through 20, you see the new standard. First, it's injury or death of a person, or property damage to the extent the vehicle, excluding bicycles or other vehicles, is so disabled as to prevent its normal and safe operation. That's an inflation-proof standard that seems to me to make some sense. We aren't getting rid of all the reporting, we're just limiting it to the more serious accidents.
Senator Driscoll.
Was this not the senator that just argued against the senator from Bates Creek's bill on Reedy?
Senator Rothfuss.
And maybe it's my fault for listening to the explanation instead of completely reading the bill. But it was pretty clear that the $1,000 limit was removed. And as described, it was basically bringing in more law enforcement. And maybe I misunderstood it. Go ahead.
Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, obviously, let me try to do this again. It absolutely is doing the opposite of what I think the good senator from the Ivory Tower first thought. It does the opposite. It by no means makes it mandatory for a report to be taken under the circumstances that were outlined in that scenario that was given by the good senator from the Ivory Tower. There's no requirement. It just has to do with the law enforcement writing a report, the need to write a report, the mandatory need, and it stipulates the vehicle's inoperable or unsafe to operate, then they have to take a report. This merely gets our law enforcement folks out of the world of estimation, to have them estimate like what the damage is. They're not estimators. They're law enforcement folks. They do the best they can, but in this day and age, with anything, you tow a vehicle out of an area, you pull a vehicle out, you can easily cause more than $1,000 worth of damage. You can still, with that being said, you can still trade in information on an accident with the other person and come to your own, amenable solution. This merely states that, before it was the law currently the law is that if they believe it's over $1,000 worth of damage, they shall complete a report. This merely takes that $1,000 out of the equation and then stipulates to the reasons why they would have to have a report. And when it comes to the local law enforcement, the peace officers, the big improvement there is it's saying you have to do this within 10 days. My own personal experience is, oddly enough, where the good senator from the ivory tower comes from, the law enforcement folks aren't what you call the quickest in producing a report, which causes problems with the insurance company because they're waiting on a report when it comes to items like subrogation and items like that. So this merely, I wanted to point that out because I think it's important that we do require these local jurisdictions to have a report on an accident within 10 days. I think that's a positive thing. Now it has the same stipulations, the vehicle's unusable, and I ought to hope this doesn't go into the last discussion and we can just come to a quick end to this. But I'll stand for any more questions, Madam Chairman.
Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of Senator Cooper's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 25, say aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 25 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 27.
House Bill 27, Disabled Parking Windshield Placards Revision, sponsored by the Transportation Committee, an act relating to motor vehicles, was referred to Committee Number 8, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass. Ayes Senators Anderson, Brennan, Cooper, Kolb. Excused Senator Pappas. Senator Cooper, acting chairman.
Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move that the Committee of the Whole rises to report it, do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 27. I would ask on Senator Brennan to present the bill, please.
Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman. Third time is going to be a charm. I'm not sure for the presentation of the Transportation Department or for the body, maybe both. House Bill 27, Disabled Parking Windshield Placards Revisions. This bill is an act relating to motor vehicles, amending disabled windshield placard content as specified, providing rulemaking authority, and providing for an effective date. We're going to go into Wyoming Statute 31-2-213, little d, Romanet 4, big D, and amend it to read. On big D, page 2, lines 5, 6, and 7. An expiration date for a temporary removable placard or the word permanent for a permanent removable placard. That's what we're doing. So a little explanation. Currently, on these disabled placards, a temporary placard is blue and it has an expiration date on it. A permanent placard is red and it has an expiration date on it, but they're permanent. So what we're going to do with this bill is we're going to have a blue temporary placard that is going to continue to have the expiration date on it. The red placards that are permanent are going to have the word permanent on it so that the department does not have to issue these every 10 years as they do now. And for you fiscal conservatives, this will save us money. I will take any questions from the body.
Seeing no questions, all those in favor of Senator Cooper's motion when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 27, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. House Bill 27 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 54.
House Bill 54, Chancery Court Judges, District and Circuit Court Assistants, sponsored by the Judiciary Committee, an act relating to courts, was referred to Committee Number 1, which returned a committee recommendation that it do pass amended. Ayes Senators Crago, Crum, Hicks, Kolb, and Olson. Senator Olson, Chairman.
Senator Olson.
Yes, Madam Chairman, thank you. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report that it do so with the recommendation that House Bill 54 do pass. There is a standing committee amendment, which I would ask to be read in at this time.
House Bill 54, Standing Committee Amendment Number 1 to engrossed copy, page 4, line 3, after.
Okay, and I will move the adoption of Standing Committee Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 54. Ask for your favorable consideration. This Standing Committee Amendment just corrects a typo in a title of a statute on page 4, statute 5-13-116. This applies to both circuit courts and district courts. So we're just adding the language after circuit court or in a district court. And that's literally it. I'm nervous to say that's it with this body, but that really is the amendment, Madam Chairman. And I'd call for the question on the amendment.
All those in favor of Senator Olson's motion to adopt the Standing Committee Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 54, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion to adopt Standing Committee Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 54 has passed. We are back on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This bill, really straightforward and simple. What it does is it allows Chancery Court judges, so that's our new court system that we created, allows the judges on a Chancery Court to fill in for circuit court judges or district court judges. So that's it. We want to make sure that our Chancery Court judges are busy, but we also want to make sure that our circuit court and district court judges are taken care of if they need to get excused from a case or they go on a vacation or whatever it may be. That's it, Madam Chairman.
Seeing no questions, all those in favor of Senator Olson's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 54, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 54 has passed the Committee of the Whole. Majority Floor Leader.
I move that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
You have heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Ooh.
Can we read the Committee of the Whole report?
Mr. Vice President, your Committee of the Whole, having had under considerations bills on general file, begs leave to report as follows. House Bill 23, do pass amended. House Bill 45, do pass amended. House Bill 25, do pass. House Bill 27, do pass. House Bill 54, do pass amended. Senator Jones, Chairman.
Senator Jones.
Mr. Vice President, I move for the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carried. Yes, thank you. The report is adopted. Thank you very much. Can we have reports from standing committee, please?
Mr. Vice President, the following reports are dated February 12, 2025. Committee number 3, Revenue, to whom is referred House Bill 11, engrossed, Manufacturing, Sales, and Use Tax Exemption Amendments. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Aye, Senators French, Ide, and McEwen. No, Senator Case. Excuse, Senator Pappas. Senator McEwen, Chairman. Committee number 3, Revenue, to whom is referred House Bill 75, Coal Severance Tax Rate. Respectfully report same back to the Senate with a recommendation that it do pass. Aye, Senators French, Ide, and McEwen. No, Senator Case. Excuse, Senator Pappas. Senator McEwen, Chairman.
Madam Majority Leader?
Mr. Vice President, I move that we stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Thursday, February 13th, 2025.
Announcements. Senator Landon.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just a reminder to the Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, Cultural Resources Committee, we will meet 8 o'clock tomorrow morning in room 4. That's the Wind River room. To take up House Bill 4 engrossed snowmobile registration and user fees, and House Bill 73 recreation safety rock climbing.
Senator French.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Your committee number 5, Senate Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources will meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in the Capitol Extension Room 6 and online to hear the following bills. House Bill 92, Wyoming Livestock Board Memorandums of Understanding, and House Bill 168, Cultivated Meat Prohibition.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Your number 8 committee, Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs Committee, will meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in room W002 in the Capitol Extension and online to consider the following bills. House Bill 28, Commercial Driver's License Revisions. House Bill 30, Engrossed Driver's License and ID Revisions. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Your committee number 1, Judiciary, will meet tomorrow upon noon recess in W006, so committee note the change in room, to hear one House Bill 172, engrossed, repeal gun-free zones and preemption amendments. Thank you.
Senator Driscoll.
Mr. Chairman, your committee, Appropriations number 2, will meet tomorrow, Thursday, February 13th, upon noon recess in State Capitol Room W113 and online to take up House Bill 86, engrossed public property and building amendments, House Bill 97, engrossed property conveyances near critical infrastructure, House Journal 1, amending Wyoming's Act of Admission for earnings, House Bill 166, State Auditor Payment Transparency, and other bills that may be read in before that time.
Thank you, Senator Driscoll. Any other announcements? Any other announcements? You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The Senate is adjourned until 10 a.m. Thursday, February 13th.